You are listening to Radio Belvaspata, South Africa. This show is dedicated to those who live and love from the heart in infinite ways. In today's episode, we will discuss, share, gain insights, and get clarity on the wisdom and teachings of the mystic and seer Almin, as well as discover more about the miraculous healing modality called Belvaspata. Your host for this show is Paul.
Broadcasting live through the medium of Belvaspata Radio South Africa. You're listening live to us, broadcasting out of Benoni, east of Johannesburg. Thank you for joining us. Tonight, there's a show all about miracles, about living in upside-down realities, and living in the white light, but also not. That proverbial catch-22 that we've been speaking about has become quite clear and obvious, and tonight we're going to solve that riddle. The title of today's show, we don't need to buy Christmas gifts, or for that matter, Easter eggs. But I believe in miracles. Do you? Well, that's one of the beautiful mantras that I've been using, and Almin taught us to do that. She says, always say, I believe in miracles and I expect miracles. Daniela, you said today on Facebook, I believe in miracles, and I completed your sentence for you. Isn't that two beautiful things happening together? But what an exciting week here in Benoni that we've had here at Team Belvaspata South Africa. Two huge big moments and gifts from the cosmos came. Now I'm going to try and not get that tinge of irony in my voice, but it's still a program I'm working on. The first one, I got a small refund from the taxman suddenly appearing in my bank account. And let me tell you, in South Africa, that's quite a miracle all by itself. Doesn't happen easily. So just kudos to the auditor and thank you to the cosmos for that incredible gift. But then, today, up on Almin Diary, a short class by Almin, that we've now already arrived in 2018. And so my own logic now says that I don't need to pay those funds out by buying Christmas gifts this year. Or even the Easter Bunny for that case. He can just keep on hopping, and understanding that we are already in mid-2018 according to the seer Almin's teachings. It was wonderful. It was a busy year, but where has time gone to? Well, now we know we are gone. 2017 has ended officially according to the calendar here on my computer screen. We're on the 30th of November. It's 8 p.m. on Thursday evening. But according to the cosmos, we have now skipped and we are completely in another time frame altogether. So we're going to discuss all of that today as we're going along. But let's keep working on believing in miracles and allowing those to manifest in our life, because it has been an incredibly difficult and trying time for many, many of us. We've been sharing so much on social media with each other through emails and through comments. I am very, very honored to know many of you and to have you in my space, and I thank you for that. Let's go with the cosmic mantra today. It says, the all-knowing wisdom and clarity of my life resides in me. In times of quiet contemplation, I find it. You know, the mantra is just something Nico and I look for each and every morning, first thing. And we sit and we look at it for a few minutes and we go, how beautiful is that before our day starts? It really, really helps us. Do you remember last week's show? Last week's show we spoke about, what was happening in the cosmos. We spoke a lot about how we are entering the white light. We worked with a beautiful audio from the seer Almin. There was an interview with her, and she discussed the release of her cookbook and why she would publish it even now that she'd become a vegan. And she explained so beautifully those different aspects of it. Again, not imprinting her beliefs on anything or anybody else, and allowing us all to make our own choices. Excuse me very much. But she did clarify Her recent statements about diet and the reality of high magic are not about imposing rules, but rather pertain to the fact that the fear and death frequencies embedded in animal products are not conducive to transitioning into the stages of awakening. She says that for when you begin to enter these stages, the dream isn't completely gone, and your asleep parts are still very much affected by the stuff of the dream. And I'm seeing a lot of that. I'm looking at the inversions of realities, the upside down aspects of realities, and I'm seeing so much of these things developing for myself. I just love it when, you've been working so much on things, and one little class, one little comment by somebody suddenly comes into play, and there it all becomes clear. And I really appreciate that. So that's what we're speaking about last week, and it's got an impact on what we're going to be discussing this week, because we're going to go into the details of all of this. And we've got lots of stunning audio from the Seer Almin. Some of it quite old, but also provided to us because it is so much message pertaining to us at this particular moment in time. Sujata, you posted something very, very beautiful yesterday, and I just wanted to say thank you for that. And it's all about knowing the difference, and just learn to see the right perspective. So she says in her Facebook page, as beings of light, we have had the inclination to want to know. The need to know and the interpretation of experiences creates linear becoming, which leads to cyclical change. To move beyond, we must understand how to truly experience without trying to know. We find that when we hold on to plans, preferring one moment of time, which is frequency, and space, which is light, there is a loss of innocence. The loss of innocence removes the wonder of the moment. Well, in this audio, which we've taken from a video from Almin's Pathway to Ascension YouTube series, Almin clarifies the difference between ascension and resurrection, and she discusses how ascension has changed. And these are just abridged excerpts from that course, Pathway to Ascension. But I'd just like us to play it just to get an understanding of that difference, because maybe we've forgotten the difference between resurrection and ascension and the roles that they play within our lives. And perhaps one of the inverted realities that we are doing is we are trying to approach it from a state of ascension or a state of resurrection when we should be working with the other. So let's define that for ourselves in terms of just sitting back for a few minutes and listening to the Seer Almin.
Let's take a look then at what is resurrection, because this is a little confusing to most light seekers when they speak about resurrected beings, and on the other hand, they speak about ascended beings. So we can define ascension even a little bit further by comparing and contrasting with resurrection, and then we will also take a look at how it compares and contrasts with death. Ascension is, in fact, the vibrating to a higher level of the physical body and the etheric, more subtle bodies of a being. In other words, they vibrate generally as we have understood it in the past, but I am going to show you that even that has changed. However, we've always assumed that an ascended master is not here in the flesh. Well, that used to be true, because ascended mastery meant that you vibrated the cells of the body. In other words, the song of the body went up an octave, at least. And so, as the cells of the body vibrated and went up one octave, the master, in fact, moved right out of here, taking their bodies with them. No longer in the flesh, able to come and go to the flesh as they wished, but they generally wished to stay in the ascended mastery realms. Not here amongst the milling crowd, not here in the throngs of what to them feels like confusion. As of February of 2005, the Infinite gave commands that Ascended Masters preferably, although they have a freedom of choice, preferably stay in physicality. It is imperative that physicality be archetypally representative of all kingdoms, of the Ascended Mastery realms, in fact, even of what lies beyond, which is the God kingdoms. So Ascended Mastery used to mean that you vibrate your cells with such a high frequency that it becomes invisible to the average eyes of man, and that you take it into higher levels where the Ascended Masters dwelled. They were also called the White Brotherhood, or the Brotherhood of Light, or the Masters of the Earth. They have come from all walks of life, from all different races, and from all religions, or spiritual paths for that matter. So, my brothers and sisters, if that is what Ascended Mastery was, now the only difference is that that master deliberately lowers his or her frequency, retaining their very large light. And of course, the subtle light is not always visible to humankind, but retaining their light and also keeping lower their frequency so that they stay in physicality. Now, resurrection, on the other hand, is something a little bit different. Resurrection comes when somebody has almost gone into this act that it raised the frequency of their body. For instance, in war, where somebody self-sacrificingly and knowingly offers their life for others. This raises the frequency very high. In fact, there's a very beautiful scripture that says, "For no greater love hath man, but that he gives his life for another." Fortunately, the days of martyrdom are over. Our highest service now is not to die or to suffer. It is to live a glorious ascended life of majesty in perfect love and light. What happens when somebody gets that close to Ascended Mastery, but then they pass away? Well, there either is the grace of the Ascended Masters or the Infinite that will assist that person to go just that one extra little notch, and then the body will rise again, even though it tasted of death. But there's another way that it is more generally done. That person resurrects themselves. And it goes like this. For the moment, understand that when death occurs, the act of recapitulation brings tremendous insights. Recapitulation is very commonly called by people as "my life passed before my eyes." In fact, it's often used in jokes when people said, "Oh my goodness, my life passed before my eyes." They are saying they came close to death. When the life passes before our eyes, we learn such perception. We gain such insights. We see how every joyous moment we lived contributed more to life than all the self-sacrificial work that we did. We learn a great deal about love and about service and about living our highest truth. We see things for what they are and what they were. And in doing that, light floods us with perception. And when that happens, if the spirit lingers around the body, in fact, the body can rise again and the spirit will go back into the body. And this is how resurrection takes place. As you can see, entirely different from the ascension, which will vibrate it up. The body never tastes of death.
And you're back in studio with myself, Paul. There we were listening to the Seer Almeen as she shared with her the class from Pathways to Ascension about ascension versus resurrection. We are aware that we are possibly losing signal, but South Africans, you'll understand the Wi-Fi situations that we end up with for people outside of the country. Then please understand that our signal, which is the best that we can achieve here, is beamed into our building, and there's a storm beginning to rage outside. So as trees and that cut through across the tower that we get the signal from, we sometimes lose signal. Please stay with us if you possibly can, and then we will try to work through it bit by bit. There has been previous times in our show where we have been cut off completely, but it's the best that we can do at this moment. We hear that fiber optic signals and fiber optic cables are being laid in our area, and we should, in the next couple of months, be able to have a permanent, fast, proper Wi-Fi connection into our building. Let's wait for that miracle to unfold all by its time. So I've been feeling a lot of this for a while, and we've been speaking about it on the show a little bit, perhaps 5-6 weeks ago, when we discussed the wrinkle in time. I think Diane was in studio with me at that particular point, and we discussed what Almeen had taught about the wrinkle of time. And I said at that particular point that I feel that we're in this wrinkle of time. And just to highlight it for those who perhaps don't really know what a wrinkle in time is, Almeen likens it to time where we are going down time across a piece of paper, and suddenly the two edges of that piece of paper are pushed together to the middle, and we get a wrinkle in that sheet of paper, and then we have to live in that wrinkle. But what it does is it bypasses the time frames that we are in at that particular time, and it takes us a leap forward. But at the same time as it does that, as we have to make effort to go up the edges of that wrinkle of time, it feels like we're on a huge roller coaster of experience, and we achieve and experience things that we've never really experienced before as a person or as humanity. And things can become extremely dense and intense at those particular times. And it's important for us to understand what that really is all about, is that we have built up enough frequency and enough light within ourselves to be able to actually then take that leap into the future. And on some level, we also don't need to learn what lies in front of us today and tomorrow. We can move forward into that particular future. And I hope I've explained it correctly. But now up today on Almeen Diary, there's a post there, A Wrinkle in Time, the Planetary Future, a Restoration of Hope. And this is taken from the Seer Almeen's journal on November the 19th. So on this date in November 1999, I had just gone into that first stage of God consciousness, except at the time I didn't know what was happening to me. I couldn't recognize my face. A stranger stared back at me from the mirror, or I couldn't even remember my name. I'm sure all of you are actually understanding exactly what we're talking about at the moment. It has been an incredibly intense time as the density has to shift and move through all of us. Then it continues. I was receiving the daily frequency codes for next year's time maps and the extremely powerful incantations that go with these strange frequency codes. I was aware that they were a profound answer to the deep desire of my heart to find a way to save the planet from the predicted devastation that would cause its inability to sustain life. As I wrote the last one and received the last incantation, we hit a wrinkle in time. It literally moved us to the end of May 2018, bypassing the events in between. I felt space and time dissolve around me, and I was thrust into the second stage of the white light reality. Isn't that absolutely incredible? and really answers a lot of the experiences many of us have been sharing online and with each other. And, I know I've been on WhatsApp contact with several of you as well. Absolutely incredible watching it all, but it explains where we are actually moving to and details the exact experience bit by bit. What I'd like to do now is just share an audio which is called Art from the Other Side. It contains these frequency codes that Almeen is speaking about. It's a video that is up on Almeen Diary, but I'd like to just take the next little while just to sit back and just allow whatever is there to clear away and allow these frequency codes then to just impact within the self and just bring that frequency and light up, and allowing us to move forward and just start to create this different reality of living in the second stage of the white light reality. And then, of course, we've moved into a different state of resurrection and ascension as we do that. So the video contains art by the Seer Almeen. Obviously, on audio, we cannot play that, but please be aware that the frequency codes are in there. If you are driving, please pull over. That's if you've downloaded this particular episode or podcast, but for the majority of us, we'll be listening either on our device or our computer. Let's just close our eyes just for this little while, and let's sit here with Art from the Other Side, with the frequency codes, with the Seer Almeen and the entire cosmos. And you're back with myself, Paul, and Nico is handling our sound desk. Unfortunately, we are having major signal issues coming into the building, so the program itself keeps cutting, and apparently we're going back to last week's show. We cannot continue with tonight's show because it won't make sense. Even though I'd love to stay and chat with you all, it's not really going to make sense to do so, and I'm just happy that I was able to listen to that beautiful piece of art from the other side, including the frequency codes from the Seer Almin. Such a gift in my day at this moment in time. So we're going to cut for tonight because we can't rely on the signal. We won't have a steady 1 hour show, and our apologies for all of that. But we have explained earlier about the Wi-Fi signal and problems, and that's just the way we deal with things. Unfortunately, we will not be able to continue for tonight. Thank you for being with us, and we hope that you will join us next week. Perhaps the weather will be clearer and we'll be able to get a good run for a 1 hour show completely. But at least we've had part of the half hour together. It's been my pleasure. Pleasure from Nico. He's tried really, really hard, but with no signal, we can't do anything else. May the week ahead be filled with miracles. May you believe in miracles, and may you experience miracles. May the magic of the gods and evolved man live in the bounty of pristine magic, and let us continue working through gaining insight into our own existence. Let us live in love, praise, gratitude, and complete trust on all levels, keeping our perspective clear, open and ready for whatever is new. And remember, we have now entered a wrinkle in time. We are in May 2018. Let's deal with all of that and work through it, and we'll see you next week with another insightful show, hopefully some fun and a better signal. Good night.
You've been listening to Radio Balbasbata, South Africa. Thank you for listening and sharing in our discussion. Should you have any questions with regards to the healing modality of Balbasbata or have any healing needs, please send us an email to info@balbasbata.co.za or add comments to our page on Spreaker.com so we can work on providing a suitable response. We now close this episode with the eternal ascension qualities of love, praise, gratitude and trust, and look forward to sharing again with you next week. Goodbye.